Now, the case of Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omotoso is expected to continue today in the East London Magistrate's Court in the Eastern Cape. A statement was released overnight by the National Prosecuting Authority confirming an appeal will be lodged against the judgment acquitting Omotoso and his two co-accused in the last case earlier this year. Now, they were acquitted on charges of rape, human trafficking and racketeering. Omotoso was arrested in East London this past weekend on charges of contravening the provisions of the Immigration Act. But to give us an update on these developments, we're joined here in studio now by National Prosecuting Authority Spokesperson Mthunzi Mhaga. Thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina, and good morning to your viewers, and thanks for having us.
So the NPA at the time of the acquittal did indicate that they would study the judgment, and I suppose this is the outcome, the decision to appeal.
Indeed. Remember that the trial had been running for over 7 years with a transcript of over 2,000 pages and 3 judgments that an NPA assembled team of experienced prosecutors together with the senior counsel that has been appointed to give a well-considered and legally sound opinion. It is a basis on the strength of that the Director of Public Prosecutions in the Eastern Cape, Mr. Madolo, took a decision that the judgment is appealable. We take the view firmly so that the Honorable Judge misdirected herself in applying the law. And there is not much evaluation that went into the evidence of each witness that has been led by the state prosecutors. However, we are constrained in criticizing the judges in public platform like this. We only have one legal avenue, which is an appeal process, in respect of which yesterday, the 12th of May, our counsel sent a request for clarification of factual findings in the judgment because we believe that they are not glaring, they are not clear at all, after which we will then expeditiously request a reservation of a question of law. Because remember, Sakina, the state is limited when it has to appeal an acquittal conviction. Unlike an ordinary accused person who's convicted, he can base his appeal on grounds of law and facts. But with the state, you need to request that honorable judge who presided over the trial to reserve certain questions of law which you say your appeal is based upon in terms of Section 319 of the Criminal Procedure Act. Those questions will be reserved for consideration by the Supreme Court of Appeal, which will be hearing the appeal.
And which is interesting because for her part, the judge in her judgment was critical of the prosecution team and basically, saying that they did not acquit themselves very well in this particular case.
That was a disturbing adverse finding that the Honorable Judge made about the so-called ineptitude of the prosecution team. As a result, the National Director, Advocate Shamila Batoy, decided to set up a team of experienced sexual offences prosecutors to say, interrogate the judgment insofar as there are adverse findings of ineptitude on the part of the whole prosecution team. If there are disciplinary steps to be taken against them, that is going to happen. We're expecting that report end of May.
The other thing was, at the time of the acquittal, there was already an indication at that point that there may be an arrest of Timothy Omotoso based on the Immigration Act, which then didn't take place at the time. A few weeks have lapsed since then. So what was the reason for that, and what are the specific provisions of the Immigration Act under which he has been arrested?
My understanding, limited as it is that Home Affairs have formidable case or evidence against him in contravening the Immigration Act, which is a criminal offense. I don't know the relevant section, but my understanding is that he's in the country illegally, and therefore he should not be. That's why there is a case before the East London Magistrate Court that started yesterday and rolled over to today. We took that into account when we took this decision, and we are very much aware of its bearing on or possible bearing on the appeal process later on, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We did take that into account, Sakina.
And then also looking at your statement, there's another case that you make mention of as well, and I suppose there's a lot going on even in the Eastern Cape as a province alone with regard to gender-based violence. We heard of cases of the 7-year-old not so long ago, but there's a specific case that you make mention of in this particular statement that you issued, and I just quickly want to get to that because I'd like you to elaborate on that, Mr. Mhaga here. I'm not sure if you understand which one I'm referring to.
It's a case that relates to Thembekile Qeku.
That is the one.
A former police officer stationed in Komga in the Eastern Cape, who has been convicted of raping a 17-year-old teenager who was a victim of domestic violence. He had sought help from the police officer, who then took her to a police station inside an office, raped her. When she ran out crying, there were officers on duty. She asked for help. They laughed her off and said she was on drugs. Then she ran away. Later on, the case was withdrawn. When it was withdrawn, some of the colleagues reached out to the IPID, which took the matter up. The matter was re-enrolled. He was convicted and sentenced to 20 years. This is one of the cases, in addition to Jocelyn Smith trafficking in persons for exploitation and kidnapping case, which was a successful prosecution by the Western Cape Division. It's a demonstration of our legal prowess, our prosecutorial capacity to deal aggressively with gender-based violence. So, Omotoso's acquittal clearly is a setback. It's a devastating case. It has a very negative impact, but it's an isolated case. If you look at the fact that when we roll out the Tutuzela care centers, the support service that we provide results in 77% conviction rate currently.
So more positive about, a positive outcome in this particular appeal in the Omotoso case, are you?
We take the view that the provisional points of law that have been reserved by our senior counsel are sufficient to mount meticulously an argument for the overturning and setting aside of that judgment, which we believe is wrong in law.
All right. And thanks so much for stopping by quite early in the morning. Mthunzi Mhaga, the NPA spokesperson, giving us an update on the NPA's investigation into, among others, the Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omotoso and the appeal in that particular case.